Good morning. Good morning, my beautiful friends. This is your wake up call with Maui Paul. I am Maui Paul. We are here today to say some nice things about ourselves. I'll say good morning, Shauna, Dan, Lauren. Wonderful to see all of you guys here today. Thank you so much for joining in. Yeah, indeed, we are here to say some good stuff about us. Happy Monday to you. It is a new week, and that means that I've had Pepper prepare for us a new set of cards. So I'm very excited to see where she decided to go for this week. She's not feeling super great right now, but she is definitely on the upswing, more so now than she has been in the past week or so. So prayers up for Pepper. Also, let's always remember Tony's mom, and also my friend Sandra. Quite a few people are not doing all that great right now, and so let's just keep them in our prayers. Anyways, we are here to say some nice stuff about us and ultimately to build into our own lives. And so I'm going to do the same thing we do every Monday morning. And every morning on Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., I'm going to pull a card off the deck. I'm going to ask you if you are the affirmation on the card, and we are going to respond out loud together. I am that affirmation. As we do this, we are just seeding our lives with these positive thoughts. And there is so much good positive psychology that shows that just by saying these words, by writing them down, that we are ultimately living up to our own expectations. So let's set some amazing expectations for our lives by saying that today I am magical. I am magical. I inspire joy and wonder. So I am magical. I inspire joy and wonder. Are you magical? Oh, you are magical. My friends are pretty magical people. We inspire joy and wonder. I'm going to write that down in the comments. I encourage you to do the same thing. I am magical. I inspire joy and wonder. And you are as well. And here, this is such an interesting one because, I mean, really, what is magic exactly? There's a lot of there's a lot of thought about what magic actually is. Of course, you have the thing that stage magicians do, which is a form of illusion. You have there's a line of thought that says that the words which come out of our mouths are inherently magical. That the words that we speak have creative power. And I believe in both of these things. Of course, yeah, magic itself is an illusion, and the words that we speak do indeed have creative power, tremendous creative power. The words abracadabra basically mean I speak into reality. And so we do speak into reality. We're speaking into reality right now. We are speaking we are speaking into our own lives at this very moment. As a very famous quote, it says that any technology which is sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. And I think that it goes for mindset as well. Any mindset which is sufficiently advanced is also indistinguishable from magic. Magic itself is something that it seems to make the impossible possible. We don't believe our eyes, we don't believe our ears. We see something that we just don't think that it could possibly be real. And yet we have all this physical evidence around us that it is. And as we adjust our mindset through these magic words that we speak, then we not only do we manipulate the fabric of reality itself, but we also inspire that joy and wonder. And the fact is that even our scientific inquiry is starting to lead us to the idea that the world is a bit more magical than we think it is. Google has just released more data about their most recent quantum computer. And if you know anything about quantum computing is pretty indistinguishable from magic. The quantum computer is able to solve mathematical equations or mathematical problems that would take the most advanced supercomputers that exist on the planet today longer than the heat death of the universe to solve, and is able to do that in like 5 minutes. And we're not entirely sure how it works. But and yet the results that we get are cohesive. The results that we get are the expected results. And this thing is fairly indistinguishable from magic. How can we set up a math problem that would take hundreds of trillions of years to solve, and then have a computer solve it in 5 minutes, and then we know what the answer is. But the way that we asked the question was sufficiently convoluted that it would take the world's best supercomputers, I mean, longer than the heat death of the universe. It's insane. And so, since our technology itself is becoming indistinguishable from magic, and of course, Dan, 42 is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Absolutely. That is a magical number right there. It is my age, and let me tell you, I'm a pretty magical person. But as we continue to develop these technologies that are kind of indistinguishable from magic, it makes me wonder about the way that we the mindset that we have in our own lives, the way that we can manipulate the forces of our own lives in such a way that to an outside observer is kind of indistinguishable from magic. I remember that one of my early mentors, um, just the way this guy lived his life, everything that was good for him just seemed to kind of happen. And I remember wondering about that because it seemed as if all of the all of the things that were good for him that just kind of happened in his on his behalf, he really wasn't doing anything more than intending for them to happen. And I remember that that was a really big lesson that he taught me. And he said, whatever you expect, you're going to receive. He says, prayer is expectation. So he says, so he said, the reason that things that in your life are happening that you don't want is because you are expecting them to happen. And therefore, you're looking for evidence that they're happening. And then as soon as you get a little bit of evidence that they're happening, you subconsciously start making these choices that expand upon that evidence and ultimately bring that into our experience. And he said, I'm always looking for things that are good for me to happen. And so when anything that even has the whiff of something that would be good for me to happen enters into my reality, I lean into that and I lean into it more heavily. And then even more good stuff happens for me. And I remember thinking about it because he was right. At the time, my mindset was very much, such that I thought that I expected bad stuff to happen. And even when something good happened, I expected that something bad would follow it. The universe would have to be in balance somehow. That if something good happened to me, that something bad would also have to happen to me, and so therefore to kind of keep me at the level that I was at. Of course, that's that's kind of a ridiculous way of thinking. That's equally irrational as thinking that only good stuff happens to us. But since our thinking about the future is irrational either way, why not think about something good? Why not use our imaginations for that with that tremendous power of imagining what it is that we actually would like to have occur? And I have found in my life, and also I've observed in the lives of others, that as we do this, magical stuff, as we are become sufficiently advanced in our own mindset, in our own ability to do life, as we continue to reap what we sow. Because let me tell you, the day that we plant the seed is not the day that we sow that we harvest the fruit. We are harvesting the fruit today of the seeds that we planted a long time ago. But that this is another aspect of it. The um the the stuff that we reap today is not the stuff that we sowed today. And so in many cases, the life that we're living today is kind of a trailing indicator of the life that we've been living for the past week, month, year, 10 years even. And so we are magical, and we inspire joy and wonder. And the reason that we inspire joy and wonder when all this good stuff happens to us is because it is inspiring to the people around us, because they look at that and they say, how on earth is that guy living that way? If you were to take 5 years ago me and show that person my life today, I would just assume that something completely magical had happened in my world. Like I would almost not be able to believe that I was the same person. And 5 years ago today, me would be very inspired by today me. Be like, wow, he finally figured out like some of the biggest questions in his own life. How did he do that? And so as we live, in a big, bold, bright way, as we live as these magical people, we do inspire that joy and wonder. And because who doesn't want to be around somebody who is living their biggest self, their brightest self? We all want to be that. We're all interested in really being able to be the best versions of ourselves, share our gifts with the world in the most congruent possible way. And so we do inspire joy and wonder the same way that a stage magician inspires joy and wonder when they do the tricks that they do up on stage, when they engage in those illusions. The difference, of course, is that our life is not an illusion. Our lives are the product of everything that we have sown in the past, and it is no more a it is no more magical for us to live our lives today than it is for a farmer to reap the harvest that they sowed last season. And so today, let's go out into the world and let's inspire that joy and wonder simply by being who we are, simply by taking all of the development that we've done, all of the all of the perspective that we've gained, all of the knowledge and the wisdom that we've gained over the course of our lives, and living like that, living knowing this stuff. We can't unknow it. Once we know it, it's known. And once we figure it out, really how the world works, that well, we're not going to go back to the way we used to be. In the same way that if you're familiar with the allegory of the cave, with Plato's allegory of the cave, once somebody exits the cave, they might go back into the cave, but it's really only to pull other people out. They don't go. You can never go back to the world of illusion. And let me tell you, this world is full of illusions that are not to your benefit. There are many forces out there that are seeking to influence you to do something, to think a certain way, to buy a certain thing. The algorithms on our phones programmatically do this. They do this in a very a very pervasive way that is almost inescapable. And then we kind of wonder like why we're being manipulated, or in most people's case, they never even think about it. They're just manipulated. And so, once we can break out of that, once we can see that world for what it is, once we can recognize that there are very powerful interests that are keeping us thinking certain ways, when we can elevate our thinking past that, we can never go back to the to the knowledge that we had before. I was talking yesterday with a friend about the magic of TV, and we were talking about we're talking basically about the house hunter shows that are very popular on TV. You might have seen them on like HGTV, where a family sets a budget, they go out, look at a couple houses. There's some drama about oh, she wants this house, he wants that house. They have to compare the features of the houses. All the houses have their pros and cons. The house that they really want is always just ever so slightly out of their budget. Well, we were talking about the fact that so I had some acquaintances who were on one of those shows, and they told me the real the truth behind it, which is that they had already bought the house that they bought, and that they were approached by the studio because they were a good looking couple, and they were just made for TV. And so they said that they'd already bought the house that they were going to buy. There was no drama about it whatsoever. They found the house they wanted, they bought the house they wanted. And then the TV producers came and said, okay, well, we're going to look at this house, which is unacceptable, and then this other house, which is also unacceptable, and then the house that you eventually bought, which we're going to find some things that are unacceptable about that, and then we're going to pretend that you can't afford to buy the one that you already bought, and then it's going to be a real stretch for you, and then you guys have to have some drama. And they played along, and they made their paycheck, and they made an episode of House Hunters, but they weren't hunting for a house. They had already hunted the house. They'd already found the house. It was all done through the magic of scripting and the magic of just the way that the story was presented. But there was no story there. It was entirely a fabrication. The whole thing was fiction. And I was talking to another friend who basically has the guy owns a resort, and we all know him. But I was chatting with him in his office last night, and he said that those people actually approached him to come and do like a house hunters thing at the community where I live. And he told them, he said, well, nobody here has any houses for sale, so I'm not sure that would work. And they said, oh, no, you don't need to have any houses for sale. You just need to have, we're just going to put some for sale signs out in front of some houses. We're going to hire some actors, and they're going to go and tour these houses, and then we're going to make a story about it. And it was just so completely disingenuous. The reality TV was not real. Well, once you know this, you can't unknow that. You can't go back to a time before you knew that that's how it was. And so every time I watch one of these house hunter shows, or every time I don't really watch them because I don't have a TV, but every time I see one, I happen to come into contact with one in the wild, I always giggle about it because I'm always like, yeah, those people, like I always try to guess like which house is the house that they already bought before this show even aired. And so, a part of being magical is about the way that we present to the world. Just like the same way that through magic of television, They present a story that doesn't really exist. They present a reality that isn't there, so that they can get clicks and views, and so that they can sell commercials. So too do we present a reality to the world that is very much a trailing indicator of the way that we have, the decisions that we've made in the past. So let's go out and be our magical selves today. Let's go inspire some joy and wonder. Let's go just be our biggest, boldest, brightest selves. And in doing so, inspire other people to be their biggest, boldest, brightest selves. So some of the folks who have done the most just like surreal stuff in my life have inspired me to do some pretty surreal stuff. Um, Oftentimes the things that I've done that have been just really, really cool have been because somebody inspired me to do it because they did it themselves. I made a pretty epic motorcycle journey across America twice and then down to Costa Rica, solo on a motorcycle. And the reason I did it is because I had run into several motorcycle travelers who had, when I was living in Costa Rica, who had already done that same thing, or they were in the process of doing it. And I was like, if you guys can do it, I can do it too. And that seems like a fun thing to do. So I'm going to go do it. When I recount that story to people who don't really know me all that well, to them, it seems like I just did this amazing, incredible, impossible thing that, I could have been killed. And it's, to them, it's like a magical thing. But to me, it was just a one day at a time thing. I don't think it magical at all because, well, I did it. In the same way that a stage magician doesn't think that the illusion that they're doing is magical at all, because they know exactly what they're doing. They know the tricks of the trade. And so the tricks of our trade, whatever it may be in our lives, are the mindset that we go into life with. And that mindset, as it inspires joy and wonder in others, and it will, that mindset will be sufficiently advanced that people will mistake it for magic, when really all it is us reaping what we sowed a while ago. And so let's reap what we sowed a while ago today. And let's continue to sow things. Let's continue to sow even more magical fruits in our lives. Let's continue to sow even more amazing, beautiful things. Because then the harvest that we will reap later will be 100 times what we sowed today. And in that way, we get to continue multiplying our effect. So I want to say thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you to Pepper for making this card. I hope that she feels better. Also, I hope let's all just continue to keep Tony and Tony's mother and Tony's family in our prayers. And also my friend Sandra, she went into the hospital yesterday, so let's keep her in our prayers as well. There's a lot of people who are not feeling well right now, or who are sick, who are going through it. And so we're just we are just calling in health and well-being to these people, and we are intending, through the power of our magical and focused intention, we are intending for them to be well and to be vibrant and to continue to live amazing lives. Anyways, I want to say thank you guys so much for being here. I'm gonna go check on the peps. But good morning again to Lauren coming in from Cumming, Dan from Buford. Good morning, Shauna, probably from your house. Hope you're keeping warm, Shauna. I know it got cold last night. Let's see here. Dan says, I'm magical. I inspire something or other. Well, I know you do, Dan. Hey, I think you're a pretty inspiring guy. I've learned a lot from you. Good morning, Donna, coming in from the HOA. Let's see here. Dan says, everything is temporary, good and bad. Cherish the good, minimize the bad. I love it. Some of the magic words in my life are more or less. So often we think of life in absolutes, that that life must be absolutely one way or the other before we will consider life to be good, or before we will allow ourselves to believe that we are successful. But in the end, life is really just about more of this and less of that. Decide what we want more of, and get more of that stuff. Decide what we want less of, and organize our lives to have less of that in it. Good morning, Maria. Wonderful to see you on the wake up call today. You are also a magical person. And let's see here. Dan says, the flux capacitor. Talk to your former or future self. Yeah, my former self would be probably pretty intimidated by me, and my future self would probably be like, yep, you definitely that was an inevitability. Let's see. And yeah, Shauna, reality TV ain't real. That's definitely something about it. It's all designed just to tell a story, and it's and interesting stories they tell for sure. So let's tell good stories to ourselves about ourselves in our own heads, and let's continue to do it with these words. All right, my beautiful friends, I love you. I care about you. I will return tomorrow at 9 a.m., where we will have another one of these. Thank you so much for being here. I love you and appreciate you, and think you guys are awesome. And yeah, once again, yeah, have a wonderful, magical, as my friend Maui Sandra says, have a beautiful, wonderful, magical, happy day. I'll talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Until then, aloha from paradise.